Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of my podcast, Audible Mess. I've been really wanting to do this for years, and now we're here. And it's very funny, actually, because since I decided to make this podcast, I've had the flu, and it's been about a week now. My voice was really fucked yesterday. Like, I sounded like a zombie. I couldn't even speak. And I think it's still a little strange now, but that should just tell you how dedicated I am to make that podcast happen. So here we are. And just to set your expectations right, I'm not exactly sure what this is going to be about. I will never know, honestly, because the podcast, I think I would just speak about whatever's on my mind. And, my mind is a little messy. Not a little, actually. It's a pretty messy place. It's very chaotic. And I just don't want to limit myself to one topic or, one specific thing to talk about. I have I don't know, I have 7 to 10 podcasts laying in my brain all the time, all day. So I would just choose one of these topics and I'll make an episode about it. That's it. And the first episode, I wanted to make something, I wanted the first episode to be relevant to the idea of the podcast as a whole. And like I just told you, it's not going to be about something specific. It's going to be messy, okay? You'll have to bear with me. But I think it's just really nice if I talked about chaos as a concept and how we can try to embrace it or maybe even live among it. Sometimes chaotic happenings or situations are not really within your control, right? I have lived a chaotic life ever since I could remember. It's just been my life, It's not something specific that was happening, but it was just how everything was coming together to create my life. It was very chaotic. And I've hated it. I have hated it. I remember when I was a kid, whenever I would feel the chaos and it would overwhelm me, I would just feel like, oh my God, I don't want this. I don't deserve this, I want a better life. I want a life that is peaceful. That's what I've always longed for. And I can remember that when I've rejected it so much and hated it so much, I've put so much energy and emotion into hating it that I couldn't actually do anything about it. I think that the first step into trying to, change it or embrace it or whatever is that you have to accept the chaos. You have to give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling, as messy and as chaotic they could be, and then you have to accept that this is happening to you. Because I believe that you can only move forward if you accept your current situation. By the way, by accepting, I don't really mean to just stand passively and witness whatever is happening to you. That's not what I mean. But accepting something means that you acknowledge that it's true, that it has the right to exist. Whatever it is, sometimes it's not reasonable. I get it. Sometimes chaos doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. And you would just think what the fuck just happened? Why is this happening? I get it. But still, it's just, it exists, It is what it is, basically. Sometimes you would have to say it is what it is so you can move forward. I think that accepting something is not the same as letting it go. Okay, these are two different processes, I think. If you want to let something go, in that case, it has to be something that is not within your control. So, letting something go means accepting that you have absolutely no control over that thing, you can do nothing to change it. It is what it is. That's the real it is what it is, right? If you want to do that, you would first have to realize that, well, I guess this is not really within my control, is it? So I guess the second step is that after you accept something, after you accept the existence of this chaotic presence in your life, you would only have to remind yourself of what is within your control and what is outside your control, something that you cannot really control. And that's why you should remind yourself, because I think that sometimes we just get too caught up in our emotions and in our feelings about what is going on that we forget that essentially it's something that we cannot control. You have to realize that some things, no matter how much you get angry over or you hate, you cannot get yourself to just accept it, or you just can't accept, this presence in your life. You have to remind yourself, well, there's only so much I can do about it, right? In that instance, you have to shift your perspective from the things that you cannot control to the things you can control. Because imagine how much you could achieve and how much change you can make if only you put your focus and attention on things that you can actually control, things that you have control over. We spend so much time and so much energy on things that we know that we cannot control, things that we know that no matter what we did, they're gonna stay the same. And it's really funny that we forget this most of the time. I mean, imagine if you're in a relationship, right? And somehow, for some reason, there are problems, a lot of problems happening in that relationship. We begin to focus so much on how the other person is acting and taking action, when in fact, we have zero control on how people react. You have absolutely zero control over the other person, no matter how you tell yourself, like, no, they can change. If I ask them to change or if I ask them to do this or that, they're going to do it. Well, guess what? You still have zero control. If they do something that you've asked of them, it's because they are in control of their actions and they want to do that. They decided that they want to do that. That doesn't mean that you can be or you can have some sort of control over the other person. So that's just an example of this situation that could be very chaotic, and at the same time, you would be focusing on the wrong thing, focusing on the thing that you have zero control over. But imagine if you shifted your perspective and you begin to focus on yourself, on your inner thoughts and feelings and whatever, and you tried to manage that and also asked the other person to do the same. Imagine if you focused on this. I think it would change so much. It would change so much of the situation that you essentially don't like. It doesn't matter if you think, well, yeah, I know that some things are completely out of my control. No, it doesn't matter if you know it. What matters is if you actually take action based on believing that. I see a lot of people saying that they know what's within their control and what's outside their control. But then I see them doing some pretty much actions that just tells you that they don't really believe what they're saying, I mean, if you're, I don't know, if you're driving to work or like to school or whatever, and the traffic is pretty much crazy and you keep cursing and getting so angry over everything and, cursing the president and like the everything, you don't really believe that, do you? Like, If you believe that that's something that's outside your control, you wouldn't do something like this. And that's just a stupid example. There are so many other important examples that happen in our lives on daily basis, I think. But things like this, this could ruin your day. I see a lot of people like, oh my God, my day is ruined. Like the traffic was pretty crazy today. I mean, I'm not asking you to be completely stoic and just feel absolutely no sort of annoyance over the fact that the traffic is crazy. I'm not asking you to do that. But I'm just asking you to focus more on what you can control. I don't know, you can put on some jams and, things that you like, and or maybe a podcast. Maybe you should put on my podcast. I don't know. Or maybe you should play your audiobook that you've been putting off for a while. I don't know, do anything, but just you will realize that, well, I'm not really in control of the traffic, am I? So that will make you a little less agitated. So if you have truly accepted the chaos and then you reminded yourself of what's within your control and what's outside of your control, I think the next step is that you have to realize if the existence of this chaotic presence in your life is due to in order or confusion. I think that chaos could be caused for or by so many reasons, right? There is chaos that is not within your control, like things happening outside your control, and you can only either witness happen or try to do anything to change them. And there are things that maybe are within your control, but it's mostly just in order, things that you need to get organized, or maybe your life is pretty hectic right now, you need to get it together. And sometimes I think it's because you're confused about something. And I think that confusion is such an underrated feeling because for me, it's actually one of the worst things I could feel, to be confused. It ruins my life when I'm confused about something, especially if it's integral to how my life works. Like if I'm confused about my career or about my love life or about like my friendships or whatever, it just really fucks up everything for me. And confusion could be pretty much overwhelming, that you cannot even think about how you can change the situation. And confusion can manifest as chaos because, well, let's be honest, if you don't understand how something works or why it exists, then for you it's just pretty much a chaotic presence, It doesn't make any sense to you. It's chaos. It's messy. In that situation, if you assess the situation and realize, oh, I think I'm really overwhelmed by the chaos because I feel so confused about this specific thing or this situation. In that instance, I think the only thing that could help you is for you to gain knowledge about whatever thing you think is confusing. For example, if you think that your brain is so chaotic and it's just really ruining a lot of things for you, it makes you even dysfunctional at sometimes in some situations. Well, you cannot just say, "Oh my God, I'm such a chaotic person." There's nothing I can do about it. No, you can actually do something. And the first step for you to do something about it is to understand why you are like this. Are you chaotic because this is how you were raised? This is how your parents were, and you're just being the same as them because, well, they raised you? Or are you chaotic because it's just how your brain works and maybe you need someone to help you understand more about your brain and how it works so you can manage it and you can manage things more carefully, in that instance, I think you would get the solution. Like, you would get it. I swear to God, like, it just happens. Once you realize that something is overwhelming and chaotic because you're confused about it, and you actually take time to think about why it may be confusing to you, you will get the answer. But you will have to realize that if you don't know the answer, if you still don't get it, you can ask for help, right? You can ask someone who you think might know more than you. You can ask them. It's okay to ask for advice or help or whatever. And if that's hard for you, if you don't want to go straight to that, you can just ask Google, right? I don't know, if you think, something is chaotic and you don't really understand that situation, just ask Google. I don't know. I've done this my whole life. Every single time I didn't understand something, or, you can just look up on the internet. I'm sure other people are having similar experiences to you. And that could just be a step for you to understand what's going on. I think that once you do this, and once you actually get the answer, everything just becomes a little less overwhelming, because a huge part of the reason it was chaotic in the first place is that it was confusing to you. But now you understand more. Maybe you don't understand everything, because guess what? We're humans. I don't think we ever get the full answer to anything, okay? We never do. But maybe now you understand it a little bit more. And I think that could help you to move to the next step, which is to create a structure for your life, or for that specific thing that you think is pretty much chaotic. And I think structure is like the best weapon to fight chaos. Oh God, I just think it's magical. Structure is magical, but I get that some people actually struggle with structure and routine. And, you'd have to figure out what works for you. I'm not saying that this applies to everyone, but if you are someone who doesn't like routine, you can still have some sort of structure over your life, or in your life. And that's the point when, you have to just figure out what works for you, because not everything that works for me works for everybody else. I would say that routine, like a structured routine, really saves my life in moments of chaos or uncertainty. Some other people I know would never really want to have any sort of routine in their life, which is okay. But you have to have some sort of structure. And I think that the structure helps you focus on the things that the things that you can control, and it reduces the importance of other things that you don't know or you have no control over. Then you would actually just recognize the difference between the two. Like, I know this, like, I have control over this, so I will put that in my structure. That's just how I will create my structure. Other things that are pretty much not within my control, well, they have no room here, because I can't really do anything about it, can I? And I think that without structure, it's easy to just get overwhelmed into like a big knot of confusion. It will just make the chaotic situation worse, okay? I've been there. It just makes everything worse. And you just become tangled into whatever chaotic situation is happening at the moment in your life, and you just feel stuck. You can't do anything, you can't move forward, you can't go back, you can't do nothing, okay? It's not the situation you would look or hope to be in if you're trying to fight the chaos. And I personally think that one of the best things that you can regain some sort of control over your life with, or create some sort of a structure, are lists. I think that lists are something that's really organized. It just organizes and kind of collects your thoughts, into a place where you can look at and then like, okay, so this is that and this is that. For example, let's say that you're very much confused about your career, right? You're doing something that you don't love. You want to change it. If you created a list, let's say for things that you can do, skills that you already have, and another list for skills that you would love to have, things that you would love to learn one day, and let's say another list for things that you love. Those are 3 lists that could help you maybe figure out what you would like to do in your career, because they combine skills that you have and that you will learn someday, and they also combine your passions or things that you love, your values or whatever. You can look at these 3 lists and think, oh, maybe I could be this or maybe I could be that. That's just an example of how lists can be useful. And I think if you successfully create a structured routine or just some sort of a structure for your life, comes the next and final step, which I think it's optional, right? But it's pretty much satisfactory if you actually achieved it. The final step is to create something out of the chaos. Create how? I don't know. To each their own way, their own interests, their own passions. Maybe you like art, maybe you like media, maybe you like, whatever. But you have to create something out of the chaos that you're experiencing, because that's like a final step for you to fully embrace it. You're completely in terms with the chaos now. You can peacefully live among it if you can't change it, and you can also change it if you want. Like, it doesn't sound like a problem to you anymore. It's just something that you face. You can either do something about if you can, or you can just live peacefully among it if you can't do anything about it. To me, I've said that before, I think, in the beginning of the episode. My brain is pretty much chaotic at all times. I have like from 6 to 10 podcasts playing in my brain all the time. It's just my mind has like so many things playing there all the time, like music and podcasts and random people speaking. It just is. It's been like this, since forever. And I thought to myself, like, why don't I just make something out of this? What if I took these thoughts and ideas and put them into something? And that's essentially why I created this podcast, because I'm trying to make sense of the chaos that is my brain, if that makes sense. I don't know how it could be for you. Sometimes I do art, sometimes I sketch, sometimes I, write songs, whatever it is for you. Find a way to create something out of this chaos, and believe me, it will just transform the whole experience for you. I promise. And yeah, that was pretty much everything. And just a reminder for everyone that's listening, and even for me, is that sometimes life can be crazy. It just can be crazy, and it could be very chaotic. I mean, what's going on right now, the ongoing war on Gaza and Palestinian people, that's the pure definition of chaos. When I said at the beginning that the first step to embrace the chaos is that you have to accept it, that's one of the examples that I wanted to give, is that sometimes something horrible, horrendous would happen, and you would in no way agree with it or think that it should happen. But guess what? It's happening against all of our wills, and we have to accept that it's happening. Not in the way that we become passive agents in watching it happen, but in the way that we have to acknowledge that this is going on right now. Because let me be honest with you, if you don't accept the chaos sometimes, you will not even have the will to continue on living. I'm being honest with you. Like, at first, when I rejected that this is happening, and I was like, this should not happen. And, I just couldn't process it. I'm going to be honest. I couldn't process it. And that's why I couldn't accept that it's happening. And I didn't even have the will to live. Like, why would you want to live in a world that you reject everything that's going on in it? You will not want to live at that point. So we have to accept that every crazy thing that's happening right now is happening so that we can actually do something about it. We start with acceptance and then we end with whatever. Maybe we make something to let those people be remembered. Or maybe we have some sort of power to be able to change the situation, even if by making just the tiniest bit of progress. I don't know. So yeah, that's just a reminder for myself and everyone else that sometimes you can't do anything about it and you just have to live and witness whatever is going on. But the most important thing is that you should never forget what's going on. You should always remember so that if you had the chance one day to do something about it, it will be well and alive in your memory. It will not be forgotten. So yeah, that's just everything that I wanted to say. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I would try, I'm not sure, but I would try to post weekly. And yeah, I guess I'll see you later. Bye.